At this time, would you help me welcome Brother Steve up to give his testimony?
Good evening, everyone. The last time I actually give a testimony here in Decatur was actually at Betty's Cafe, so it's been a while. My testimony is really no different than many of you. It's just the results are the same. We're all standing here today. Paul wanted me to give a little bit about my life and growing up. I didn't come from an alcoholic family or a drug family. They were all very straight-laced. My mom and dad, I can remember in my entire life, my dad only having a beer one time in my life ever, and I'll bet he didn't even finish it. That was never a big prevalent thing in our family. But on my mom's side, they all come from Europe, so it's very dominant in the German culture is alcohol. But even my grandparents were not much for drinkers either, but many of my other family are a tremendous amount of alcoholics. And I was really introduced to alcohol when I was probably about 8 years old, I would guess. I was trying to remember, but it's hard to remember what had happened years ago that I really wanted to forget. And I'm thankful we have a God that He forgets everything that we've done. He forgives us our sins. But as I got to thinking about, I was first introduced to alcohol, and I was really driven towards alcohol. Anything I've ever done in my life, even Jesse's been around me now doing the work and stuff. Anything I do 115% gung-ho, full out, no matter what it is. And I did the same thing with alcohol. And as I started to go through school, I would try to get alcohol any way I possibly could. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And when we moved into town, into Bancroft High School, so I was introduced to a lot more kids and a lot more partying and drinking. And I would say probably about at the age of 13, I really come onto the drinking stage. I was picked on a lot when I was in grade school because of the small country school I went to. I was only one of the few that wasn't related to everybody in the school, which there was only 27 kids. So I grew up being picked on all the time, and as I started to get older, I started to get a lot bigger, a lot stronger, a lot faster. I was in 7th grade. I had 3 guys come after me, and I beat them all up and knocked them out and everything. Well, the guys in high school had seen this, that, hey, this kid's a pretty good kid. He's really well built. I mean, he's very aggressive, and that's what they like. So even in the 8th grade, I started hanging around with freshmen and sophomores, and they were partying. And back in the day when I was a young kid, it was not uncommon to have 3 or 4 parties in a week. I mean, we'd start out Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and I reached into high school and started drinking more and more all the time. And I'd gotten so bad, I would leave the house on Friday night. I wouldn't come home until Sunday. Sometimes Sunday night, Monday morning. My mom and dad tried to stop me. I was very independent, very driven, and I didn't care. So, and this carried on in my life all the way through school. I was a very aggressive person, and as I started to learn, as I gotten bigger and faster and more muscular, I was now become the aggressor. So what I would do is when I would get drunk, I was extremely violent. I loved to fight, and I was very, very, very good at it. And I was in a tremendous amount of fights all over different towns, well known for it, unfortunately. I never touched a woman. I never, ever hit a female anyway. But this is the thing, the whole time I was doing this, I knew God was in my life, and I could hear Him. And actually, I went to a Lowell Lundstrom crusade in Oakland when I was probably about 15. My dad drugged me there. I didn't want to go. My dad's born-again Christian. And I accepted the Lord, but man, I didn't walk it. I'd do well for a while, and then I'd fall back. And I'd do well for a while, and every time I fell back, I got into alcohol more. I did some drugs, not a tremendous amount of drugs. But this was encapsulating my life, this alcoholism. It was terrible. Like I said, I was getting drunk sometimes as much as 4 times a week in high school. And I'm not talking a little bit tipsy. I'm talking fall down, slopping drunk. I was getting so bad I was passing out and blacking out. And they said that's a very, very bad time. You're starting to get alcohol poisoning when you're drinking that much and blacking out. And this was going on and on and on. It would eventually killed me. But I always could hear God in my life. I knew He was there. No one could tell me that I wasn't. And as I was drinking, I could hear Him in my head. And the only way I could stop hearing Him was to pass out drunk. So my goal was to stop hearing Him because I wanted to do my own thing. And it's amazing by God's grace that I'm still standing here. I should be dead. I did so many stupid things, driving over 150 miles an hour on my motorcycle on a bald tire and just other crazy. But I mean, God
spared my life for a reason, and I believe, it's because of here. But as my life kept going on, and the drinking got worse, and it was hard to hold it. I was still in high school. I did well in high school and everything, and I got out of high school. And the drinking was, again, getting increasingly worse. And I met a young woman. She had been married once before. I had 2 children. I was 19. And we had gotten married. And she was one of the worst persons I could probably do, because her entire family were all alcoholics. There was 5 brothers, 3 sisters. 1 sister was non-alcoholic. Her mom and dad and her 4 uncles were all alcoholics. So this was a constant thing. Alcohol was in my life constantly. With her family. And I always said, every time we had a family get-together on her side, we might as well invite the sheriff, because he's coming anyway. Sooner or later, somebody's going to beat somebody, and then the cops are coming. But this was the kind of thing that I went through. We were married 11 years, and a great woman, don't get me wrong, but just even to this day, and it still grieves my heart, I just found out 6 or 7 months ago she bought a bar in Bancroft. So I thought, what a terrible thing for this woman. And as we were married for about 11 years, God was still on my heart constantly, and I knew He was there, and I couldn't stop that. My dad was always praying for me, and he was always relentlessly after me and my wife at that time. And but the drinking still overrode it all the time. I'd do well, I'd get into the Bible, I'd get on the straight and narrow. But my wife at that time, and I'm not blaming her in any way, she was kind of like Lot's wife. She'd always kind of look back. She'd always I still like that life. Well, like a fool, I'd follow right behind her. After a while, I'd say, no, I'm not going to drink. You can go drink, do whatever you want. But it wasn't very long. But hey, remember, Adam bit the apple too. And I did too. It was my fault. I was the head of the household. And I know she has she can do as she wishes, but still I fell backwards. And this went on time and time again for 10, 11 years. And my drinking was getting progressively worse. And there again, I never ever once struck her, ever. We had many, many arguments because of alcohol. But I was still fighting, even though going out on Saturday night, Sunday night, getting fights with her brothers. Numerous times we had been fights. I have a scar above my head. The only thing I've ever got all the fights was this scar right here, and I was one of her brothers. But this was a life I'd led for so long. But there again, like I said, I could hear him in the back of my mind all the time. And I'd wake up in the morning going, man, I'm not going to do that again tomorrow. I'm done with this. I'm done with alcohol. By 6 o'clock, you could hear the crack of the beer tab and pop open another beer, and we'd start right back in again. And I was really a mess. And like I said, I should really be dead. All the different things. I remember one time I was at a party. I was probably 17 years old. I think this is one of the only times I can truly say that I had an encounter with an angel. Whether it truly was or not, but I believe it was. It was very common back then. I don't know now. You go to a party, and in the middle of the party or towards the end of the party, you just go up to a girl and say, hey, you want to go home with me tonight? And most of the time they'd say, yeah. So I remember at this party, and the entire night, I'd gotten into a fight earlier that night, and I was really, really drunk. I had no reason even to get in a vehicle other than the passenger side, because I couldn't even hardly stand. And I remember this young girl, little blonde-haired girl I can still see it today. Her pants were brilliant white. And that's what attracted me to her. And I walked up to her, staggered up to her, and said, hey, you want to go home with me tonight? And the next thing I remember, I woke up in the morning. I was 17 years old. I was living with another guy, even going to high school, living on the farm because I had a part-time job. But anyway, I woke up the next morning. I was in my bed. I don't know how I got there. I have no clue. My pickup's sitting out front. And I told my buddy I had to walk past his bedroom. Do you remember the girl I came home with? He says, no, you come home alone. I said, really? I know I went home with a girl because she drove. Whether it was an angel, I have no idea. But to this day, I truly believe that was an angel that saved my life. Because I should have never been behind the wheel. There's no way. I was so drunk. But I did that night after night after night. I'd gotten a DWI. I was so drunk. Thank the Lord the state patrol stopped me. I probably killed somebody. And the night before, I almost got a DWI before that. So, this is how bad alcohol had ingrained and had gripped my life. But yet, I always knew that God had some part in my life. I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, like I said, when I was sober, I could hear Him. I knew He was there. I could feel His presence. And I don't understand why He was pressing on me all the time, but He's with that with everybody. I'm no special case. he wanted to save my life, and he had an idea for what I'm going to do, in my life, and I still haven't truly fulfilled, I believe, what he still has in tail for my life and my wife's life now, Cindy. Well, towards about 11 years into my marriage, we had a horrific divorce. It destroyed, it crushed me. And with all the lies that my ex-wife was telling against me, I actually took 2 polygraph tests on my own. I said, these are all lies. I've never done anything what you're talking about. I will pay for the polygraph test. So I took a polygraph test. That's a scary thing. I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to clear my name because I hadn't done any of these things. And I passed both polygraph tests with flying colors. They said, you were not lying. You're telling the truth. But the reason why she was doing that is because when these lies are perpetrated, the lawyers, it's a way that they can get everything from when the man doesn't get anything. So when I walked out of the house, I basically had the clothes in my back, a bag full of clothes, and a little old junk car, and that's all I got. I didn't get the house that we owned or anything. She got everything, and that was a ploy that they could do to do that. And I had to spend, a couple $1,000s to clear my name. And like I said, I took those tests, and I did them. I wanted to take. I was running to. I wanted to clear my name. But this is the kind of things that alcohol had brought my life to. Well, I was staying in a small little motel in Pender. I mean, it was 10 by 10 little rat hole motel. I had an old junk car, and I tell you what, I had lost everything in the natural. But I still was kind of in and out of drinking. I would lived on my own for about 3.5 years, something like that. But I said, one night I was sitting on the end of my bed, and I said, Lord, I've done this life my way all these years. And really, where's it got me at this time? I said, I don't know, 20, 30, 31, 32 years old. I said, I'm now divorced. I don't have the kids around. I live in this little rat hole motel. I got a crummy job and an old junk car. So I really don't have much to look forward to. And there's 2 things that always popped into my head. One is to go towards the Lord. The other one is to kill myself. What's the easy chicken way out? You kill yourself. Well, that's not going to be an option. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fight through. I'm a fighter. I'm going to fight through this. And I said, Lord, I'm going to put my stake in the ground, and I'm going to put it in concrete, not in sand. And to this day, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to wholeheartedly give my life to you because I see what has happened in my life. I see what the alcohol has done and destroyed and lost everything. And that's the lowest point in my life where I used to walk on the gravel road near the dredge, and I'd yell and scream and cry and get on my knees. I'd lay prostrate like David. I'd lay flat and pray. I just didn't understand, but it was all about me, and that was the whole thing. I had to finally get the idea that, man, this is all about him, not about me. And when I finally understood that God's in complete control, he loves me beyond I could ever imagine. And whatever happens it's all in his will. And he had to take me to that point to get me to the point I am here today. If it wouldn't happen for that, I don't know where I'd have been. But I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he had another purpose in my life. Even all those years I drank, all those years I fought, all the things that I did, I'm not proud of it. I don't even remember a lot, but I don't want to remember them anymore. But I knew God's direction. But I'll tell you right now, if you think you can get away with drinking one drink every so often, you're a fool. Because it will destroy your life. It's the way that the devil can slowly creep in. And I had it happen to me numerous times. I used to go, that's where I first met Ron, is when we went to the Assembly of God Church in Lyons. But it really wasn't a strong base-back church. It was a so-so church, and at that time, and I'm not blaming them, I was really reaching out, me and my ex-wife at that time, for a church like this one, God-based, a fellowship like I've never met before is in this church. It's incredible, the people here. I'm so amazed at the things that go on. But, and that was still my fault too. I take the blame for it 100%, because I'm the man of the house. But, we kept going forward and falling back. And as time goes on, and like I said before, I was divorced. I had put that stake in the ground. Numerous times I tried to pull that stake out. But I always remembered what had happened in my past, and I still remember it today. And one thing I am thankful about all the things that I went through, the ugly divorce, the alcoholism, fighting and the drugs and the different things I've done. I'm a great witness to people that need to hear it. I've had many, many people over the years. I understand where they're coming from, so it makes it easier for me to witness because I've been there and done that, and as Paul would say, got the T-shirt. But, and as another thing, too, I want to tell you, if you think that you can if you're a Christian and you think you can marry somebody that's not a Christian, you're not right either. Because I even thought that, too, with my first wife. I thought I was saved, and I thought, we'll get together and we'll get saved later on, and well, that didn't work. And I've seen it numerous times that happening. But I will say, when I was divorced and I was walking with the Lord, and it was a battle every step, every way. The devil was always constantly trying to put up red flags and knock me down. But, there again, I'm a fighter, and God's given me that tenacity to just keep pushing forward, like Cameron did with his whole ordeal throughout his life. You have to have tenacity to push forward, to fight. You have to be that fighter. And I just prayed one night. I said, Lord, if you don't want me to ever get married, that's fine. I don't care. I want to walk with you. But I felt like there was somebody out there for me, and I guess I did. I dated a couple women briefly. And basically, when you went out with me, it was a job interview. We sat down, I said, number one, I said, where do you stand with the Lord? And we had a very, very stern talk about where you're situated with the Lord, what you believe, and what you believe in the Bible. And he said, you're wrong. Bye. See ya. We'll be friends, but I will never go out with you. Forget it. And that's the way you have to be, because you're talking about your life. And so I actually didn't even actually ask Cindy out. It was it was a God thing how Cindy and I actually met. And we're talking friendly at a cafe, and I don't even remember how exactly we had actually come in contact. And I don't know, one thing led to another. We became friends, and we were friends for quite a while. And I asked her the same questions. Where do you stand with the Lord? And she goes, well, I don't really know anything about God. And I really don't have, I don't know anything about religion, thank the Lord. And I don't know anything about God, but I want to know, and I could see that yearning. And she actually accepted the Lord very quickly after we had met, and I was witnessing to her. And then later on we got married. And we've been married, 20, you're supposed to know how long we've been married, 24 years, 25 years, something like that. And it's, it's amazing to see over the years we've been married how God has changed our lives and directed us to this church and to this body. And I am so thankful. And I would have never thought in a million years that I'd ever stand up here, something like this, be able to talk to people about what I've been through. But I'm telling you right now, stay away from alcohol. It's a wicked adder. You can't drink just one drink. It just does not work that way. Because that's exactly what the devil wants you to believe. Just have that one. You're fine. Not a problem. Paul even testified to that himself. And he had 10, 11 years of battle. And I did the same thing for 35 years, probably, maybe a little bit longer. I had the same battles and the same fights and the same issues. But I am thankful that God never gave up on me, ever. And I had a fighting Christian mom and dad, thankfully, that fought every inch of the way for me also. So, and I know I'm so thankful that I know they stayed up many nights. My dad finally told me that I would never come home. And I'm sorry, I'm keep going on another story, but and this is about my dad. He's now passed on, but he would say that when you walk out that door, I leave it in God's hands, because he said, I know you'll come back through that door, and I'm not going to worry about it. And God is protecting you no matter what you do. He'd tell me this all the time. Now, my mom was a little more of a warrior, but my dad trusted the Lord. And I did walk back through that door every time, as he said, and all this, like the crazy, stupid things. But, God is always there waiting for you, just like the prodigal son. He's standing on that balcony looking to the right to see you come back. And he runs out to you, and he leaves the 99 to come look for you. And he did that to me so many times. But I would walk away, and then I'd come back and walk away. But I'm so thankful God has me where I'm at today. And I hope a little bit of a testimony can help maybe someone. Thank you.